Today, you've made a major announcement that helps millions of workers in America. Tell us what that is.
Today, the FTC has finalized a rule that will eliminate the vast majority of non-compete clauses in people's contracts. A non-compete clause is a provision that basically prevents people from taking a job with a competitor or starting a competing business, usually within a particular geographic area and for a certain period of time. So around 30 million American workers are covered by a non-compete.
More good news today as the Federal Trade Commission, under the leadership of Lina Khan, banned non-compete agreements for most US workers, which is a move that will affect, as you heard from Lina Khan, up to 30 million Americans across the country. Now, before we get to the details of this decision and how this is going to improve the lives of workers, it is important to understand exactly what a non-compete agreement is. You might not have signed it. Tens of millions of Americans have, and it really has been this heavy weight that's prevented them from having the freedom to find a better paying job. Let's watch.
A non-compete is a contractual clause between a worker and an employer that limits the worker's ability to accept or seek other employment or to start their own business for a certain period of time or within a geographical location after the employment ends.
On-the-job training can be a costly and timely part of hiring a new employee. Non-competes are viewed by some as a tool to protect the investment a company makes towards upskilling their workers.
An employee agrees not to compete against the company in any of its different lines of business for 2 years within the state of Florida. But more often than that, you see increasingly non-competes that are national in scope and even worldwide in scope. So we're talking about 2 years will not compete against anything we do anywhere in the world.
And I don't want anyone to be fooled into thinking that non-compete agreements only impact people who work in high-paying professions. There are literally people who have worked in fast food companies who were made to sign these non-compete agreements, which basically prevented them from working at other fast food chains or at a different store within the same fast food chain. I mean, it's just, again, it is a perfect way to prevent workers from being able to leave and seek a better paying job within the same line of work. Now, this is what the new rule by the Federal Trade Commission would do, okay? So this is what it would do away with. The agency voted 3-2 to issue the rule, with commissioners in the majority saying they saw a mountain of evidence that non-compete agreements suppress wages, stifle entrepreneurship, and gum up labor markets. The new rule makes it illegal for employers to include the agreements in employment contracts and requires companies with active non-compete agreements to inform workers that they are void. I think some of Steven Crowder's former employees would find this very useful. And I just want to say, they mention entrepreneurship and how these non-compete agreements stifle entrepreneurship. That's absolutely true, because in some cases, it would prevent a worker from quitting and starting a new business that might be a competitor to their former employer. And so there's more. I want to get to some more details. This might not sound like the sexiest topic. I totally get that, but it is huge news for millions of workers across income brackets, as well as the economy overall. A nationwide ban on non-compete clauses will make it easier for rank and file workers to change jobs and not fear retaliation from their employer, or their former employer, I should say. And these days, non-competes do exist in hundreds of different professions. So just to really emphasize what I was saying earlier, take a look at this video.
Historically, non-compete agreements were used to keep executive-level employees from working for competitors and bringing trade secrets with them. Now, non-compete clauses have trickled down to rank-and-file positions in nearly every industry in America. It's estimated that 18% of US workers are bound by non-compete contracts.
Non-compete clauses today govern around 1 in 5 US workers. These clauses may have started in the boardroom, but today what we see is that they've proliferated across sectors and across income levels. So we're talking about nurses, we're talking about fast food workers, janitors, but also physicians and engineers.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
So Khan is completely correct there. And it is true that most times you find these non-compete agreements in higher wage workplaces. However, as Khan says, they are found in lower paying professions as well. Let's take a look at this chart. This is from the Economic Policy Institute, and they found that more than a quarter, 29% of responding establishments where the average wage is less than $13 use non-competes for all of their workers. That is a big deal. And I'm sorry, $13 an hour is nowhere near a high paying job in today's economy and with today's cost of living, regardless of where you're living. And if those workers break the contract by going to a competitor or starting their own business, if it's a competing business, their former employer can send a cease and desist to the worker and their new company. And that's exactly what happened to one hairdresser named Kat.
This is Kat Ranciato. The hair salon she worked at had her sign a non-compete after she had already been hired. In 2011, a sickness in her family led her to seek out employment closer to home. Shortly after starting with the new salon, she received an injunction from her previous employer, citing a violation of her non-compete. She ended up losing the case.
At the various other hair salons that I worked at, I had not come into contact with a non-compete agreement at all. I was a single mother at the time and supporting a child on my own, so the job was important to me. I almost feel I signed it in duress because I needed the job, and if I didn't sign the non-competition agreement, I would no longer be employed.
So you guys get the picture, right? How this is an albatross around the necks of workers across the country, and how the Federal Trade Commission implementing this new rule really does help people in giving them the freedom to find a better paying job. And that's something that I think people across the political spectrum are in favor of, right? I mean, the argument you hear from the right is you don't like your job, you're not happy with the pay, well then find the job that you're happy with. That's the argument they make. It's really difficult to do that if you are stuck with these non-compete agreements, which now, as Lena Khan says, are void. And in announcing the new rule, Khan also said that non-compete clauses keep wages low, suppress new ideas, and rob the American economy of dynamism, including from the more than 8,500 new startups that would be created a year once non-competes are banned. The FTC's new rule to ban non-competes will ensure Americans have the freedom to pursue a new job, start a new business, or bring a new idea to market, which, by the way, would have the added benefit of raising wages. The FTC estimates that banning non-compete agreements could raise wages by nearly $300 billion per year. And that's, of course, because there would be more diversity in the economy in terms of the businesses that consumers can choose from, that workers can choose from. And if workers have more options, that means that companies are going to have to compete for those workers. And one way that they do that is by offering higher wages. Here's Khan explaining why this will increase pay. She's more articulate than I am on this matter. She's an expert on this issue, so let's hear from her.
The average worker will make $529 more every year, which collectively means that tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars of wages will be going back to workers.
Help people understand why that is. So if there's hundreds of billions of dollars increasing in the economy, how did that happen?
That would happen because right now, workers are stuck in place because of these non-competes. And so even if they get a better job opportunity with higher wages, with better benefits, they can't actually switch jobs, which is bad for those workers. It's also bad for other workers who won't have the opportunities that are not being created because of these non-competes. So there's just less churn in the economy overall. There's less dynamism, and that means that wages are lower than they should be.
Exactly. And what she just said was backed up by a mountain of evidence, honestly. So over and over again, studies show that non-compete agreements suppress wages and entrepreneurship. One study estimated that Oregon's ban on non-compete agreements for workers below a particular wage threshold increased the earnings of hourly workers by 2.2 to 3.1% on average. Additionally, the study found that the ban increased the wages of hourly workers in high non-compete agreement use occupations in Oregon by 4.5%. And then there's a second study that I wanted to just quickly get into that examined Hawaii's ban on non-compete agreements for technology workers. And that found that the wages of newly hired technical workers increased by 4.2% on average after the ban. So this is certainly promising. It's good news. I'm really excited about it. There are some exceptions, though, to the FTC's new rules. And the exceptions have to do with senior executives who are more likely to hold trade secrets. That was the whole point of non-compete agreements. The whole point was to protect a company's trade secrets. And so initially they were applied to executives. And so Lena Khan looks at this and says, yeah, non-competes make sense when it comes to those people. Senior executives are defined as workers earning more than $151,164 annually, who also are in a policy-making position within the company. Typically, senior executives are more likely to have a lawyer represent them in contract negotiations and secure compensation in exchange for signing a non-compete agreement. So this is, again, I can't say it enough, good news overall. I think that the exceptions implemented in the new rule makes a lot of sense. The rule is set to take place or take effect after 120 days. And of course, industry groups are planning to fight this tooth and nail, but I doubt that they're going to win. I think that these agreements have been predatory for a long time. The Chamber of Commerce whining about it, but the Federal Trade Commission feels confident that the law is on her side. Let's go to Section 5 of the FTC Act and see what it says, because it does give the agency authority to issue rules on unfair methods competition. Unfair methods of competition in or affecting commerce and unfair or deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce are hereby declared unlawful. And obviously the laws, or not the laws, the studies have proven that non-compete agreements are unlawful under these terms. There's more. The commission is hereby empowered and directed to prevent persons, partnerships, or corporations from using unfair methods of competition in or affecting commerce and unfair or deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce. So the FTC's argument is that non-competes are an unfair method of competition, and therefore they have the power to ban them. So we'll see how it plays out. But for now, let's celebrate the good news and let's celebrate the liberation of workers who were held down by these non-compete agreements all across the country.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.